Welcome to Mastering Your Financial Life, hosted by Judy Heft, the founder and CEO of Judith Heft and Associates, Financial and Lifestyle Concierge. This year, she's celebrating 27 years in business. In every episode, Judy interviews professionals who help others successfully manage their financial lives. You can find this show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. Judy is the author of 2 books, How to Be Smart, Successful, and Organized with Your Money for a Better Today and Tomorrow, and her latest book, Mastering Your Financial Life Cycles, How to Successfully Manage Money in Every Decade of Life. You can read chapters of her books and catch prior episodes of the show at www.judithheft.com. Now, here's the host of Mastering Your Financial Life, Judy Heft.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 61 of Mastering Your Financial Life. I'm really excited to be here today with Jeremy Poock. Jeremy is my guest, and Jeremy is the founder of Senior Attorney Match for older attorneys that have been in business probably around 30 years, and he helps them figure out a strategic plan, how to phase themselves out. He designs and implements, their succession plans, and he helps these attorneys, handle what they need to do so that they can phase out gracefully. And he has a win-win-win process that I'm hoping we're going to discuss, and he's going to tell us how he does all of that. So welcome, Jeremy. Thank you.
Judy, thank you so much. Great to see you.
It's great to see you too. So I guess, one of the first things we should talk about is, how does a law firm get valued? Is that the first step that you have to take?
Yeah, it really is. And it's really the question that's on lawyers' minds, right? Like you mentioned at the outset, we work with lawyers that have practiced 30 plus years. Most lawyers pass the bar around age 25. So those are lawyers that are 55 plus, Judy. And at that point, they're thinking to themselves, wow, I've built up this business, over several decades. And we're typically dealing with, Judy, like your small business owner law firm. We're not typically dealing with, the mega firms of 100, 200 lawyer plus. We're talking about the lawyer who's built his or her own small business. They have a number of clients. They have decent and good revenues. And they start thinking to themselves, yeah, what is this worth? And so when we put a lot of thought into that, because when our clients came to us, we're thinking, okay, well, you have clients, you have referral sources, that's valuable. Other law firms want that. But really, what is it worth and how do you value it? And what we do now, Judy, is we differentiate between what we call law firm sales 1.0 and law firm sales 2.0. And in large part, in the 2020s, we have been in and are going to continue to be in law firm sales 1.0. And that value is based upon an earnout for lawyers thinking, what is it worth? Because a buyer is going to pay on an earnout basis typically what the clients are going to continue. The clients will continue to come into a buying firm, and the buying firm will then pay a percentage of those revenues that come in from the clients of a selling attorney over a negotiated period of time. So to answer your question really succinctly, the value of a law firm's practice is very much based upon its goodwill, and its goodwill is dependent upon the clients and referral sources of a selling firm continuing to generate revenues for a buying firm. And just real quick, law firm sales 2.0 is when law firms, and we're starting to see more and more of this in the 2020s, and we're certainly going to see in the 2030s, when law firms have real brand value. More and more law firms are taking on trade names. They are generating clients digitally. And when there's data analytics that are supporting how the clients are coming into firms, it's going to be less based upon the value. That is going to be less based upon the personal goodwill of a given attorney and based upon the brand value of a firm. And when there's brand value and data analytics supporting how the clients come in, then banks will lend. Because right now, banks by and large don't lend on law firm sales. When a bank can lend, you'll get real money up front paid to a seller, and then the buyer will borrow that money, pay up front based upon that branded enterprise type value.
That's interesting. So how important is goodwill? Because it seems to me that most service businesses, like a business like I have too, is really a lot of goodwill. And is that saleable?
Right. And so the answer to that question is yes, it is saleable. Okay. And what we call, if people will remember, the Back to the Future movie, what we call the flux capacitor, okay, in our model, right? The flux capacitor made time travel happen, right? In the saleability of law firms, the flux capacitor is what we call trust transfer. That is, if the clients clearly trust senior attorneys, that is, those attorneys that have practiced more than 30 years, the clients and the referral sources, they trust those senior attorneys and the senior attorney-led firms. What our clients need to do to realize the value on that goodwill that they've developed is to transfer the trust of their clients to successor lawyers at the firms that our clients join. And we find that it absolutely happens, all our clients really need to do is say, I've now joined the ABC firm. Debbie is a lawyer who's been practicing 20 years in the same practice area as me. I trust Debbie. You can trust Debbie. And when the client knows that they're in good hands because their longtime attorney trusts Debbie in our example, the trust transfer happens. That percentage of the revenues that Debbie then build upon that client comes into the buying firm. Buying firm shares fees over a negotiated period of time. It's very important for that trust transfer, that flux capacitor of this model to make the practice saleable and for the senior attorneys to realize the value over time.
Oh, that's really helpful. I like that trust transfer and the flux capacitor reference because it's kind of easy to understand it when you put it that way. So what are some of the options that lawyers have when they decide, I've been doing this for 25, 30 years. I'm ready to phase out. Maybe I don't want to retire right away. Maybe I want to work for another 5 years, but I don't want the headaches of the back office. I don't want to deal with HR. I don't want to deal with, any of that type of stuff. So so what are some of the options when lawyers are selling a firm that they have?
Sure. So there's three options. Okay. The preferred option that we recommend and that we broker on a regular basis is the sale, really a transition of a senior attorney's practice to a growing law firm. That is a firm that is doing what the senior attorney's practice is doing. They want and need what senior attorneys have, which is those clients and referral sources. They are our preferred choice for to whom you can sell your law firm, a growing law firm that is doing and practicing in the same areas as a senior attorney. Second choice is an internal successor. We only call that the potential option. Most clients, when they come to us, they ask us two questions, Judy. They'll ask us, what is it worth, which we just discussed, okay? And number two is who can buy it? And what we really want is our internal people to buy it, okay? Or our senior associates or junior partners or even the younger partners of my firm. We call that the potential option, though. The reason why we call it a potential option is because most of the time, those senior associates, junior partners, and even partners, those senior attorneys, the founders of the firms, they hired these people at one point as key employees. Those key employees, they went to law school and not to business school. So when a senior attorney turns to their would-be internal successor and says, look, you've got this amazing opportunity to take over this quote-unquote turnkey business, the internal successor is often looking back at their boss and said, I was hired as a key employee, not as an aspiring small business owner. So that's why we call that the potential option. And then the third option, which is not really a sale option, but we put it as a third option, is maintain your status quo. That is, if people are thinking about their retirement, Judy, some of our clients, when they do the math and they do want to practice for a certain number of years, they figure, okay, I'm 68, I'm 72, I'm 59. Maybe I'll just continue doing this. I'm at the peak of my career. We call senior attorneys, like, at the outset, we're saying, well, these are attorneys that are 30 plus years. Okay, maybe we think of them as older. Just to make any senior attorney that's listening to this or watching this feel really good, we consider attorneys between ages 55 and 75 as in their MVP years of their careers, similar to a star athlete in their 20s, right? Because one of my clients once said to me, he said, Jeremy, look, I want to have a young doctor, but by and large, people want to have an older lawyer. Right? You want that lawyer that has the experience, that knows the right people, has made the previous mistakes and learned from them, and has that sage advice. So lawyers can sometimes just stay in their status quo, sock away enough money, and work with someone like yourself and other like financial planners, good bookkeepers, figure out how do we sock away as much, and then maybe we sell it later. The risk of status quo, though, is what we call a random Tuesday. Right? Because you could be 67 and killing it, but your star senior associate could walk in one day and say, look, I've been working here for 20 years, but a recruiter just called me, and this is a great opportunity because I don't know when you're going to retire. So I just had to take this job, and all of a sudden gives you 4 weeks notice, and sometimes even 2 weeks notice. So the status quo is an option. It's what we call a third sale option. It's a do nothing, but it's possible that tomorrow could be different than what your yesterdays have been. And Judy, I think it's important to also mention, because you put your finger on it, most attorneys, they don't want to stop practicing. Like, law is their profession, their identity, their hobby. And you also put your finger on that the number one, I shouldn't say number one, because I think I've mentioned number one twice already. Like, how much is it worth? Okay. Who wants to buy it? And then the third thing people tell us is what you said just a moment ago. I can't stand running the office anymore. Right? It just annoys the hell out of me. Why do I have to hire another paralegal? Why do I have to negotiate a new lease, a copy machine? Or, why can't I take a 3-week vacation? So the idea of selling and joining a growing law firm so that you can continue practicing, establish a way to have an earn out so you make money off that goodwill that you have generated and continue to practice is really why that join a growing law firm is our preferred option for selling a law practice.
And so how often does a firm sell or keep it internal and sell internal to the younger people that have been there for a little longer? Do they have the money to actually do a buyout? How does that all work? What are your experience there?
It very rare. It's really rare. Like sometimes we have, I'm in the midst of a couple right now. I've been upfront with my clients. They really want, they look at their internal successors like the children that they would have wished they had that came into the family business is how they look at their internal successor, right? But that internal successor, and again, Judy, great, you really put your finger on a bunch of different reasons why not only did they not go to business school, but they've got all these kinds of expenses, right? I've got my own mortgage, I've got car payments, I'm planning for my kids' college tuition, and then something that dawned on me, and it shouldn't have dawned on me, it should not have taken as long as it did for this to dawn on me in the last 6 months, Judy. Student debt. Right? People carry student debts, as you well know, beyond their 30s today, into their 40s, some people even into their 50s. So, in terms of like being able to afford to pay for that law firm over time versus just keep a job, we really rarely negotiate these internal succession plans. And often when our clients are joining growing law firms, the growing law firms recognize the synergy values that a senior attorney-led firm present. Number one, of course, is sort of that obvious one, clients, right? All law firms, they need more clients. But beyond that, they need talented lawyers, right? Your would-be internal successor presents an amazing opportunity for a growing law firm to be able to bring in and welcome talented younger lawyers, talented parastaff. I did a deal a couple of years ago, Judy. It was fascinating. At the end of the deal, the COO, and it's rare that law firms even have COOs, okay? But the COO of that firm said to me, he's like, Jeremy, we did this deal, of course, because of the senior attorney. We absolutely did this deal because of the office manager, because how hard it is today to get good talent. So it's not only the lawyer talent, but it's the non-lawyer talent, and then there's the expertise that these people bring to the table. And of course, in today's world, marketing value. We all look at what we're doing today. Like this is a great source of content for your viewers. You provide this great service so your viewers can learn multiple different areas of professions where you interview people. We're all developing content, and senior attorneys present great opportunities for content for law firms that understand that you've got to communicate content in multiple forms of digital media in today's marketplace.
That's so true. And then the other thing I'm thinking about as you're talking is, I don't know, I obviously I'm not a lawyer, I didn't go to law school, but are there business courses that you have to take to be a lawyer? Because being an entrepreneur and a business person is a lot different than being a service provider, attorney, a bookkeeper, an accountant, any of those things. They're totally different skill sets in a way. They do mesh together, but I feel like for myself, I feel like I was born to be an entrepreneur. I learned how to be an entrepreneur at a young age. And so that's what I bring to the table. And I don't know if a lot of lawyers do that. They went to school, they learned how to, be lawyers, but what about the business aspect of it?
No, I don't think law school has changed much in multiple centuries. Certainly not the law school. I was fortunate. I went to Emory Law School, great law school. But I also went to night school. So I'm from the Boston area and did my last year and a half at Suffolk Night School. So at Suffolk Night School in Boston, I actually took a class of like accounting for lawyers, which was, practical about, you should know some accounting in law. That those types of courses I think are pretty rare in law schools, and most lawyers, similar to myself, Judy, right? I was a history major, coming out of Brandeis University in Waltham, Massachusetts. Great. What are your options? You go from history major to law schools. A lot of history majors, a lot of poli-sci type people that go into law schools, and then you're told, oh, when you join a firm, okay, go out and try to develop business. And some lawyers, it's just not in the cards. They're great lawyers, but not in the cards to be biz dev people. And that's where that proverbial chicken comes home to roost, when you want your potential internal successor to take over, and they just look at you with deer in the headlights of hey, can we talk about that next week, next year, 5 years from now? But 5 years from now becomes like the 75th birthday party for the senior attorney.
There you go. So let's take a little break here now, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk some more with here, Jeremy Poock, Esquire, and the owner of Senior Match Attorney. Is that what it's called? Did I get that
Senior
right?
Attorney Match. Don't worry.
Senior
If you
Attorney
Google
Match.
that, it would still reach us.
Hey there. I just want to tell you a little bit about my new book that just came out called Mastering Your Financial Life Cycles. And here it is. It's how to successfully manage your money in every decade of life. I co-authored this with my CFO, Liz Levy. And together we created this manual that's going to help you through every stage of life. We talk about having a baby. We talk about young adulthood, pre-retirement, what to do when you're at that age of retirement. If you're contemplating divorce, do you need an estate plan? We cover all of these, each subject in a different chapter. And I really think that you're going to find this so helpful, because at the end of every chapter, we have checklists that you can look at and you can use, and they can be a guide for you. So this is a wonderful manual that we've created. It's available on Amazon. You can also find it on our website at judithheft.com/book. And we're here for you. If you need anything, reach out. I hope you enjoy the book. Here's another picture of it, just so you know what's going on. Here it is. And I'm really proud of it. It's my second book. And I'd love to have you read it and give me your feedback. Judy Heft, judithheft.com, financial and lifestyle concierge, celebrating 26 years in business. And over the years, I've learned so much. And what I've been trying to do is impart a little bit of this knowledge to you, so I can help all of you become as financially organized as I am.
So we're back here with Jeremy Poock. So Jeremy, you've created an amazing niche here for yourself. I don't know of anybody else that does what you do. And what are some of the trends going on in law firm sales right now?
So a couple of trends. Let's talk first on the senior attorneys, because this is something that we're starting to talk a lot about, because 2020, as we know, digitally pivoted, right? Like pivot was such a big word in 2020. So it digitally pivoted the world, right? Like we were already Googling for almost everything and anything. We Google everything today. Who doesn't have an Amazon Prime account? Okay. Who doesn't have a Netflix account? Right? When it comes to searching for lawyers, pre-2020 and really pre-Google, lawyers would be found by clients on a, hey, who do you know type of basis. Okay. Today, it's a matter of clients bypassing that word of mouth, who do you know, and go straight to Uncle Google. We're saying that Uncle Google is America's greatest referral source. So trend-wise, Judy, what we hear among lawyers often is, what's your book of business? Right? We talked at the outset of this. What's the, how do you value a law firm? So much of it is based upon the clients and referral sources, that book of business that senior attorneys have developed over the course of their careers. Well, those books of business do not stay evergreen. And what we're seeing a trend of is that the books of business are not getting as much replenished among today's senior attorneys, who are getting less new business on word of mouth, because that business is going to smarter, younger firms that are more digitally savvy and that are capturing the clients where they are when those clients are searching on Google. So a major trend for senior attorneys considering selling their law firm is now is a very good time to consider at least transitioning your firm to a growing firm that does digitally market to clients, because over time, when word of mouth is bringing in less clients, their book of business is going to be worth less. And in that 1.0 sales of law firms era that we're currently in, that's so much based upon your clients and referral sources, well, guess what? If you have less clients and less referral sources, your law firm's going to be worth less. So that's a significant trend, that the books of business are not replenishing as much as they did pre-2020 and certainly pre-Google. Another trend is that growth by acquisitions arrived, right? Like you certainly see it in the accounting world, the financial planning world. It's here in law. It took a long time. It usually takes a long time for law to catch up. It is absolutely here. And if you're a growing law firm, if there are any growing law firms that are watching this podcast, that are listening to this podcast, watching us, major messages as you're looking to build that book of business, growing by acquiring a senior attorney's book of business, it provides tremendous benefits, and not least of which is that instant client growth.
So do you only work with the senior attorneys?
By and large, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we broker on behalf of the senior attorneys and then reach out to growing law firms. For now, what we offer to growing law firms, it's a little childish, Judy. We call it 7th grade dating. So with 7th grade dating, what we say, because sometimes a growing firm, they don't really feel comfortable calling on a senior attorney and saying, hey, do you want to sell? But like if we were in the lunchroom together and I walked up to you and I said, Judy, David would love to ask you out. What do you think of David? Oh, David likes me? It's nice, right? So we will do that on behalf of growing law firms, where we come up with a list and then we'll reach out to them and say, if you're ever thinking of selling your law firm, this firm thinks you're amazing. And we'd love to set up a time for us all to chat.
Oh, that's great. That's really helpful. Yeah, I like that. It's a great analogy to 7th grade dating, because so do you tell the names when you go in there and you say we have this law firm that's interested, or do you say it's just XYZ? Or
it really depends on the senior attorney, right? Like most attorneys think that if they put their name out there, then all of a sudden there's going to be client flight. Okay. And we've never experienced that. And by being able to name an actual attorney, it really substantiates it, because most of our clients that, they have great reputation on the growing side. We absolutely mention it. Like if I'm representing a growing firm, we want to reach out to a senior attorney. Absolutely. We're saying, that, hey, this firm that you well know, in that respect, just stay within dating, but go outside of 7th grade. That's like the 35-year-old asking out a 65-year-old. The 65-year-old feels pretty good when they're being asked out by a 35-year-old.
That's so true, Jeremy. I love that. So what are some of the financial tips for lawyers? They've been working for 30 years plus and they're ready to make a succession plan. And do you help with that too?
So we help them design. So we do two things. We help them design their succession plans, and then we broker it. And the big thing, and this has been a big, I think, theme of our conversation, is the client list. Because you work with enough attorneys that because we're not, again, by breed, we're not business people. And like one of the major things that we pound with our clients from the get-go is get your arms around, please, the client list. Okay, because we're so transactional based, we may say that, okay, we worked on this many deals this year, had this many clients this year, but your entire client list, how often when was the last time that was updated? Okay, what are the names, the addresses, very importantly, the email addresses, and more important today, I think, as we know, is the cell phone numbers, right? People are okay. We all get these spammy texts, not that you want to get a text from your lawyer all the time, but texts are going to become more and more important because all of us communicate so often via text. So having the client, you're updating your addresses, your email addresses, and phone numbers and and cell phone numbers for clients, hugely important when they're starting to plan.
Oh, that's true. That's important. It's interesting. I'd say about, I don't know, maybe 6, 8, 10 years ago, I switched cell phones. I got a new number and I kept the one I had just for the office for different codes and things because clients were calling me on it on the weekend and I didn't want to give out my cell phone to anybody. And that's all changed, like you said, with COVID and everybody working from home. We have to give our cell phones out to our clients and centers of influence and other people that we connect with. So that's an important point. So, how can people find you? This was really great. It's really helpful. I think that you educated our listeners a little bit on, how to sell your law firm, how to transition out, what's my succession plan, what are the next steps, and what's the best way to do it. So what are some of the ways that people can find you?
Sure. Thanks so much. So the website is seniorattorneymatch.com. And then also we have a YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel is The Law Firm Seller. That's the YouTube channel. We do 2 live streams per month. One live stream is the state of the market for law firm sales in 7 minutes. And the second one is like an ask show. We literally call it the Ask the Law Firm Seller Show. So both of those shows, the prior episodes are on the YouTube channel, the Law Firm Seller YouTube channel, and people can subscribe there and contact through there too.
That's great. And I'm sure they can find you on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Great. Well, Jeremy, thanks for being such an interesting guest. I really enjoyed our conversation today.
Well, thank you. And thanks, Judy, for everything that you do. And it was a real pleasure. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you for tuning into Mastering Your Financial Life, hosted by Judy Heft. You can read chapters of her books and catch prior episodes of the show at www.judithheft.com. Thank you for your positive comments and sharing this show with others.